ZNS Network, the Bahamas broadcaster for daily coverage of the IAAF World Championships.
This is your first look at sports. I'm Jonathan Benson. After an off day yesterday, Team Bahamas back in action earlier today at the 14th IAAF World Track and Field Championships in Moscow, Russia. Up first were the women's 200-meter heats. Shawnee Miller, Anthony Strawn, and Nivea Smith all had a lane, and they need to finish in the top three in their heat or have one of the next three fastest times to advance to the semifinals.
We turn our attention to the third of 7 heats in the women's 200 metres. Shawnee Miller of the Bahamas starts in 6th. Third heat of the women's 200 metres, and they're away at the first time of asking. Ograsniu of Romania is going well on the inside, but the two Caribbean athletes now coming up onto the shoulder of the Canadian. Shawnee Miller looking ever so smooth and comfortable here. The Canadians hanging on for second place at the moment, the Jamaican in third. But Shawnee Miller, that was really impressive. That is a brilliant, brilliant run.
The winning time, 22:72.
Meanwhile, heat 5 of the 200 metres come out on track. An athlete to watch, Anthony Strawn of Bahamas. Brilliant in the World Junior Championships last year. She won the double at 100 and 200 metres. 22:32, her best. She's the fastest in the field. An outstanding young talent. And she's got her birthday, her 20th birthday, a week today. So they're off in heat 5. Look out for Strawn on the outside, but also going well is Ryemyan right in the centre there. The peroxide fair hair of Ryemyan of Ukraine, and also Onwara of Great Britain. Second from the inside, and it's Ryemyan from Onwara, but finishing fast is Guillaume Firmin, and on the outside Strawn. But it's Ryemyan who's going to come through to win this. Ryemyan wins it. Strawn in second place, just behind.
Heat 6 then of the 200 metres. All eyes on Alison Felix in lane 5, and she's already storming round that bend. Alison Felix, Soumaré inside her, McLaughlin of Jamaica coming through. Felix now easing up, taking it very steady. Felix in second, McLaughlin comes through.
So there you have it, 2 of the 3 Bahamians moving on to the semifinals. Miller winning her heat in 22.72, Strawn second in her heat in 22.66, while Smith, she finished out of the running, finishing her heat 5th in 23.25. Now the semifinals were also run today. We'll have a look at those coming up a little bit later on, along with the men's 4x4 heats and the men's high jump final. Well, the partnership between the Genting Group's Resorts World and the Bahamian government will lead to improved sporting facilities on the island of Bimini. Prime Minister Perry Christie highlighted the effort during the groundbreaking ceremony for the second phase of the development.
What I would like, Mr. Chairman, is for the government and your company to so declare today that we will ensure that the youth of Bimini will have the facilities they need, including a track and field where they are able to have a track and field, and we'll find a way to do that here in Bimini, a baseball stadium. I think there's a basketball facility now that we have to support and ensure that Dr. Roll, who has conceived of it and developed it, will have the support from us, but that there's a fully integrated and coordinated effort by this public-private sector partnership to ensure that not only young people are able to grow with this development, but also old people will have recreational opportunities.
Day 6 was a busy one for the Bahamas at the 14th IAAF World Track and Field Championships in Moscow, Russia. The men's high jump final led off the evening session. Donald Thomas had a bit of problems on his opening height of 7.2 3/4, taking 2 attempts to clear the bar. It was easy going on his next 2 attempts before he had another stumbling block at 7.7 1/4. He eventually got over that on his second attempt before bypassing the bar at 7.8 1/2. He came back in the competition at 7.9 3/4 and bowed out on all 3 attempts. Now, as we go and look at the full list of finishers, you can see that based on knockdowns, Thomas finished up in 6th with a clearance of 7.7 1/4. Ryan Ingram of the Bahamas also in the men's high jump final. He didn't fare as well in his first World Championship final. Ingram was perfect on his first 2 attempts, clearing 7.2 3/4 and 7.4 3/4. However, he was not able to get over the bar at 7.6 1/4, and he finished up in a tie for 10th. Now, the first track event for the Bahamas in the evening session was the men's 4x4 relay. The Bahamas was in the third and final heat, needing a top 2 finish or have one of the next 2 fastest time to advance to tomorrow's final.
In lane number 7, the Bahamas, the eternal Chris Brown, third in his semi-final here, 45.18 seconds. Nemo, Williams and Ferguson for them. So they rise and have a clean start in the final heat of the men's 4x400 metre relay. Chris Brown of the Bahamas setting them off nicely in lane number 7. But of course the athletes will swing round into the straight. The long stagger will unwind. But it's the Bahamian Chris Brown who's potentially going to have a slight advantage. It's the Cuban Asia that will lead on this second leg. The Russians fighting with the Bahamian to get the second place. Nemo from the Bahamas for them. Williams for the Bahamas. 46.65 seconds in his heat here at these World Championships. He's pulling back the Russian. Remember, just the top 2 will automatically qualify. Rodriguez of Cuba, he's tying up slightly. Williams is having a storming finish. Schneider's had an absolute cracker for the Germans. But the Bahamian team, Ferguson, takes the last leg. A wonderful position to be in. The second place, look at this, just the first 2 automatically, remember, and they're closing down on the Bahamian. The Russian on the final leg, Krasnov, just over 46 seconds in his heat here. He's having an inspired run. He's trying to catch the Bahamian Ferguson. It's the Cuban spent. Palicia on the last leg for Cuba. Remember, just the top 2. He looks across his shoulder. Ferguson knows he's in trouble. The Russian takes the lead. And look at the Australians. Thomas, the 400-metre hurdler, absolutely flying into second place.
So tough luck for our men's 4x4 team. They finished 4th in their heat in 3:02.67 and did not advance. However, 2 other Bahamians, they still had a chance to move on to the women's 200-meter final. Shawnee Miller and Anthony Strong both lined up for the semifinals. Miller went in having won her preliminary heat earlier in the day in 22.72, while Strong finished her heat second in 22.66.
Semi-finals of the women's 200 metres are next. There are 3 of them. Line up for the first of them. Delibasaki of Greece, Lalova of Bulgaria, McLaughlin of Jamaica, Ahore, Ivory Coast, Brizgina of Ukraine, Miller of Bahamas, Danois of France, and Tamo, USA. The young Bahamas athlete has chosen to run the 200 metres rather than the 400, at which he is a former world youth and junior champion. She looked very good in her heat. Well, Ahore is off well in lane 4, catching up Brizgina already, and then Miller going strongly outside, right on the outside G, but Tamo has started well. But this is Muriel Ahore in lane 4, McLaughlin and Lalova inside. Lalova's going strongly in the red there. Strong finish in the middle lane, but it's Ahore well clear of the rest of the field. Who's going to get second? Oh, it's so close, and it was just Shawnee Miller, the youngster from Bahamas.
It was a wonderful first semi-final. But the silver medal winner, Ahore, flew round the top bend as expected. Tama with the USA was going well, but she started to tie a little. You can watch McLaughlin here in lane number 3. The Jamaican's gone. The hamstring is a problem. And the Bahamian Miller got up for second spot. It was a good run with just the first 2 automatically going through.
And Ahore won in 22.46 from Miller 22.64.
The third and final semi-final in the women's 200 metres. Antoinette Strawn of the Bahamas, the double world junior champion in 2012. She could really be a dark horse when potentially the minor medals are handed out. Well, it's a clean start in the final semi-final, and Shelly-Ann Fraser-Price, as predicted, is absolutely flying. Williams from the USA is going well in lane number 6, as is Soumare of France on the outside. But swinging into the straight, Shelly-Ann Fraser-Price of Jamaica. Ryemyan of the Ukraine's having a late charge in lane number 5. She's going to get up for an automatic qualifying spot. The result of the third semi-final of the women's 200, Shelly-Ann Fraser-Price, 22.54 seconds. Ryemyan of the Ukraine, her fast finish to the second spot in that last semi-final. And the small Q means qualification as well for Williams.
So there you have it. Strawn missing out on the final by 1/100th of a second, running 22.81. As for Miller, she will be in the final tomorrow after running 22.64, finishing second in her heat. She will run out of lane 8 tomorrow at 1:15 local time here at home. Now also tomorrow, Jamal Roll will run in heat 7, lane 1 of the men's 200 meters at 3:17 a.m. The first 3 in each heat and the next 3 fastest times on to the semifinals, which also run later on in the day. Our women's 4x4 team also in action tomorrow, running in heat 2, lane 4 at 3:41 a.m. The first 3 in each heat and the next 2 fastest times advancing to the final on Saturday. Well, Team Bahamas back on court today at the Under-17 Boys Central Basket Tournament in Puerto Rico, taking on Costa Rica. The Bahamas got off to a much better start than yesterday when they had to make a late comeback against the U.S. Virgin Islands. Our boys were up 29-23 after 1. They increased that lead to 56-43 at the break. In the third quarter, it was much of the same. The Bahamas increased their lead there to 86-60, and from there they would coast to a 116-74 victory. Rashad Davis, once again the leading scorer for the Bahamas with 22 points. Queen McGibson followed with 21. Shaquan Lewis, he added 19. Charles Bain had 12, while Jordan Wilson and Sebastian Gray, they both finished up with 10. Next up for the Bahamas now, the Pool A finale tomorrow night at 8 o'clock against Puerto Rico. That game will determine first place in the pool. The winner there will play the second place team from Pool B on Saturday. That's for the right to play in the gold medal game on Sunday. The loser plays the first place team from Group B with a place in the gold medal game also on the line. Now, no matter what happens, the Bahamas only needs to finish in the top 3 to qualify for the Tournament of Americas next year in San Antonio. And right now, things look very promising. And that will do it for sports. But don't go anywhere. There's more to come after the break.
This is ZNS Total Sports, brought to you by Fourth Terrace Diagnostic Center.